Okay. First of all, let me talk about a little bit about myself. Any of you taken a class with me before? Oh, this is good. And nobody can check to see if I'm saying the same thing. Yeah. Or I got it correctly. I started out with a degree in mathematics. I then did 3 years of graduate studies in theoretical physics or computational physics. I then went to work on a manganese mining project, trying to bring manganese nodules up from the bottom of the ocean. They were a mile and a half down. So I wrote the data acquisition system in hex without a compiler. So that you know how old I am, right? That was way back there. I then went to work for Honeywell building ship positioning systems, and they came up to me at the time and said, hey, we'd like you to be a team leader. I said, don't be stupid. I said, leaders get in the way of us writing really good software or doing what we're supposed to be doing. And they persisted, and I thought, well, you know, if I'm going to be a leader, that what I really want to do is figure out how to stay out of their way and make sure that they do good software. So we'll let them do what they wanted, which always turned out to be good software. I went back and got a master's degree in computer science. I went out and built computer systems, the first computer systems on semi-submersible oil rigs as a manager. I then went to work for Asea Brown Boveri building control systems for electrical power plants. I went to work in San Francisco as a product manager building work management systems for nuclear power plants. I went back to Switzerland and built the electronic stock exchange for the Swiss banks, which had failed twice before I got there. The first time was a 2-second throughput, and the Swiss couldn't make it go that fast. And the second time, anybody remember Arthur Anderson? Oh yeah. Don't we wish we didn't have to remember those guys? They gave us 9,000 pages of design documentation, and our engineers looked at it and said, that's not going to work. So we went, yuck. So, about this point in my time, I'm technically dead. You know, I can't tell anybody how to write anything, or even tell them if they're writing the right thing or not. All I can do at that point is lead. And there were 120 people, and agile practices emerged, and this was 27 years ago. So we saw 1-week sprints, 3-month release cycles, pair programming, test-driven development, continuous integration. 2.5 years later, the stock exchange went live, and it's still alive today. So that's how I eventually got involved in the Agile community. I went back to Salt Lake and worked as an executive in a bank, running the technology department of about 350 people. And then went out on my own. No, about that, yeah, I went out on my own, but about that time, I helped organize the first one-day Agile conference in Salt Lake City. And then I helped organize the first 4-day Agile conference, and I've been helping involved in all the Agile conferences ever since. I speak at them, I write a lot. There are 2 books out there that I've worked on. People from my company. I started my own company in '96, and we've been working in companies forever. We're now doing some big work with transformations, leadership transformation, and right now we're working in Symantec. The course that I'm going to teach you today, IBM approached us and asked us if we'd help set this up for them. This is part of one of the modules. So any questions about me that I could answer? No? That's it? Okay, so maybe I'll start speaking about the things I've led, the tools that I figure. My work is basically about tools that can help you. Most of you are probably leaders or are going to be leaders. I don't believe in changing your behavior. You got to be leaders because you know about how to lead. But I have tools that we've used over the years that are proven tools that I'm going to show you today. And if you want to use them, that's great. And if you don't, I'm not going to be bowed down with grief. Okay? So let's see what we got. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the lack of trust price tag. What happens when we don't have trust in our organizations? Then I'm going to talk about cultures that foster trust, how we can build cultures, and the leadership role. I have been doing Agile for a long time, I guess you can imagine that, or helping people do Agile. And I find there are 3 things that work that are key factors. Leadership that stands back and helps people take ownership. The other one is partnership with the business and engineering, a true collaboration. And the last one is trust, building a culture of trust. Because if you don't trust people in your organization, they won't be able to take ownership. And you won't be able to stand back and let them do it. Let them do their work. Does that make sense? So I'm going to talk about how you create a culture of trust and how you lead in that culture. So does anybody here believe you can make people trust each other? Anybody? My sessions are interactive. You're supposed to talk. I'm not going to just stand up here and spoon feed you. Okay.
Did you say make people trust you?
Can you make people trust you? Each other? All right. Sometimes you can. How do you do that? I would like to know that. You write me an email on how you do that. I'll write a really good article on it, and I won't credit you for anything. All right? How do you think I write articles? Give talks like this. I don't know. I don't believe you can make people do anything. However, I think leaders can help people or help teams trust, and I think you can build an environment that fosters trust. So anybody, take a minute and think about how you define trust yourself. What does that look like? What is it to you? Anyone?
Confidence in somebody's ability to deliver.
Confidence in somebody's ability to deliver. Well, you bet you.
Well, when I think of trust, you can have trust, but you also place trust with other people. So
You can place trust in other people.
kind of an interesting thing that gets passed around between people and it's buoyed up by relationships.
Passed around, yeah.
If one trusts someone else, he can step back even if he thinks that someone else who is doing it is making a mistake.
Yeah, if you trust somebody, you can step back and learn the mistakes. Yeah.
You don't have to watch your back.
You don't have to watch your back. Oh, that's my best part about it. Yes. Here.
The confidence that the other person will tell the truth and the whole truth.
They will tell the truth and what?
The whole truth.
The whole truth. Oh, you mean there's partial truth here? I think I'm telling you the truth, yeah.
But not withholding.
I'm withholding information, yeah.
I would say open channels.
Open channels of communication, yeah.
Predictability.
Predictability. Yeah.
It's a reciprocal relationship. You can't just trust one way.
You can't just trust one way, it's reciprocal. Yep. Yeah.
Well, you do what you say, and you say what you do.
You do what you say and you say what you do. Does that make sense? How many of you trust all the way up in your organization, all the way to the top? It's not looking really good. I think there's one guy in the back that he's his own consultant. He is the top of the company.
It's called blind trust.
Blind trust. Oh, I see. Do you feel trusted from all the way at the top of the organization? No. Do you trust your direct boss? What sort of trust? Sort of trust?
I think you could probably take somebody and define them as being trustworthy. But if you don't have a good relationship with that person, you don't know that person, it's really hard to trust them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it doesn't mean that they're not trustworthy. It's just that you don't know them.
You don't know them, and therefore you can't trust them.
Well, I think it's hard to trust somebody if you don't really know them, right?
You don't really know them. Yeah.
I think trusting your boss is an important factor in job satisfaction.
I'm not sure I want so much about, I mean, like, yeah, okay, I can agree with
If
that.
you don't, probably won't apply for jobs.
You probably don't like your job. Yeah. Anybody else?
For everybody that they would do as they perceive to be in their best interest.
Oh, I see. So the selfish egoists. You trust those to do their, to see, keep asking, acting like a self-centered egotist? I guess that's true.
Well, they might actually do the right thing once in a while, so you don't know.
Yeah, but the odds are, you never know.
But
Yeah.
I think in the corporate world or in work in general, there is a whole side of things that makes trust a little special when it exists, because it's still a relationship where you get paid for a service. You're still working for somebody who's got power over you in some way. You say you're no longer working here or that kind of thing. So it's always taken with a grain of salt. I recently listened to a podcast, a TED Radio Hour podcast about trust. There's a guy in Brazil who completely changed supposedly everything about the way you manage a company, where he says everybody's making the decision for everybody else, and like the group makes decision, nobody's the boss, etc. He pushed it to an extreme. So
Yeah, but that's Ricardo Summer's company.
Yeah.
And it's not an extreme, there are more companies doing it.
Well.
But it sounds extreme.
Yeah.
But
It's
he
not
has,
everywhere.
yeah, in his company, he started out command and control.
Yeah.
And he had to evolve because his business wasn't growing. He took his $12 million company from his father when he was 26, and in 15 years grew it to $220 million by basing it totally on trust. Everybody decides their own salary based on 3 pieces of information. What everybody in the company makes, which actually we all know anyway, so what's the point of not telling anybody? The job title they want in their company, compared with the rest of the people, Brazil, and the profit and loss statement of the company. Average in Semco, salary in Semco is lower than the average in Brazil. They pay themselves less. Their rules are totally based on making managers and leaders better. The only people that are evaluated are the leaders, which is absolutely correct. Absolutely true. If a leader gets 2 bad evaluations in Semco, they're gone. The leaders are also told everybody that works in Semco has to sit in another seat every single day. Because I don't want to know when you come to work and when you go home, because that's not what matters. What matters is results. Period. And you don't have to worry about evaluating anybody else, because the team pressure will take care of it. And that's how it works. I've seen it work in lots of companies.
Technology companies.
Huh?
Technology companies.
Technology companies, yeah. He also had, the best story was that everybody had flaws in the company, right?
Is this a tomato squeezing company that you're talking about?
No. So he built it up to 17 different business units. Half of them are technology. He's originally started building ship parts. So he had this one section of the company that was what do you call those? Assembly lines. Yeah, there you go. See, you guys are now paying attention. Assembly line. And everybody in the company had flex time. And he said, okay, if everybody in our company has flex time, but assembly line, that's not the right kind of philosophy for our company. We're going to give them flex time. And they went, what? That won't happen. The executive said, no, it'll be a mess. We got to form a committee and have it meet and take care of all the problems that are going to arise by letting these people have flex time. He says, I don't think we need to do that, but if you want to, and that's going to make you sleep at night better, go right ahead. So what he did was the night before they went on flex time, he goes down to the assembly line, see what's going to happen. And the people looked to the right and said, what time are you coming in tomorrow? And looked to the left and said, what time are you coming in tomorrow? And the committee never had to meet. They took care of it. This is the ownership piece. That's ownership. You can double the revenues in your company by giving people ownership. The way we have to do it is build a culture of trust first. Otherwise, leaders can't step back that far. That's why, and the data is, I'm gonna tell you the data here. So, the data looks like this. 2004 to 2008, the people that developed the Fortune 100 Great Places to Work send out 37 questions anonymously to the people in the company. From that, 2/3 of them come together and they form what they call a trust index. How much trust is in the organization. From 2004 to 2008, the top 100 trust companies outperformed the second 100 trust companies by 43%. Now, what happened in 2009? Anybody remember 2009? The crisis, right? So they added the 2009 data, and look at this. Those companies outperformed by 126%. Do you know what this means? If you add trust to your company, you can double your revenues by adding any more people. And guess how much it costs to put trust in your company? Anybody got any figures you want to put on that one? What's it cost?
How much does a seminar by you cost?
Yeah. You could have bought my book, because it's in the book. Oh, I think this is free. Actually.
This one is.
This one's free. You don't know. You don't have to hire a highfalutin consultant to come in and teach you how to trust. You just have to. This one's free. You can take these charts home and read them all you want. They'll be just fine. And right on our website it says steal our stuff. We don't care. You can take anything you want and use it. You don't need us. But what does it cost to put trust in your company? How much? Zero. So how come it's not happening? This is a big number. Out of all the research I did on this number and the impact of trust, this is the most conservative. They also said that the S&P outperformed the S&P over 10 years, and then the Watts study says it was by 300%. There are other bigger numbers out there. So the numbers from the Great Place to Work are more conservative. But still, guys, why are we not doing this?
I'm sure it's not all the banks that are low trusted.
Yes, I think that's true.
They make a lot of money.
So how come, what are the price tags when we don't have low trust in our companies? Transaction costs. Any of you work in a team in the past that had no trust on it? Anybody? You remember how it felt to go to work? Didn't you just love getting up and going to work those days? Nobody wants to. Nobody. Transaction costs. That means a person that you don't trust on the team, how many times you have to check in with them to see if they're really doing the work they said they were going to do, correct? How's it going? You need any help? Are you going to be there? Are you going to have this? I had a guy who was supposed to write the requirements, not the requirements, we call them the functional list for a new product in the bank that was going to be, it was going to take $12 million to build it and touch 20 systems inside the bank, right? And I said, where's the functional list? He said, we don't have it. I said, the salesmen are out selling this. Where's the functional list for the software people? He said, well, I said, I'll do it. I said, okay, how long? He said, 6 weeks. I said, okay. Daily stand-up every day. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Friday comes along after 6 weeks. Guess what I get? A half a page. Oh, yeah. I wasn't a happy person. The one thing I know about being an executive is I just went down to HR and said, gone. And they said, okay, we'll take care of it. There's only 2 high firings I ever did in my entire life. That was one of them. But transaction costs, this is how many times, how much percentage of the time on a team without trust you think this takes up the team? How much? 50%. Anything else? Anybody? Anyone? That's about right? Is that what you think?
I say higher.
Higher? How much?
80.
80%. Yep. Anybody? Anyone else? Eugene, you have a number?
90.
90%. Holy mackerel. That's really bad. What about this one? Self-protection. Any of you live in a world of independent performance reviews that are stack ranked? Oh! I got you on that one, didn't you? You just made the connection, didn't you? Right? Anybody live in that world? How many of you live in that world? You know what it means, the rest of you? Your independent performance reviews, you're then ranked from top to bottom, and you're on a bell curve, so only so many percentages can get the big ranking, and so many have to get the lower ranking, right? So, where's the collaboration? Why would you want someone to look better than you? Correct? There's the self-protection. You need my ideas? I'm going to make sure they're recognized as my ideas. Correct?
Also, what happens with bonus programs as well, right?
Yep. Bonus. Anything where you attach performance to money. It's huge. It's outrageous. It's so bad. It's not very much fun. It's counter-agile, which is really difficult for us. It's not agile to be able to do that. Self-protection, how much do you think percentage of your time is taking care of that? Huh?
60.
60%. 25%. Yeah, the research I've seen, one time I can't find it anymore, said 30% at least. Broken trust is the final one. I don't mean making a mistake. I mean actually, like my friend said, every day everything was going to be fine and it would be done. And on Friday he says, no, it's not done after I have a half a page for 6 weeks worth of work. That's broken trust. Correct? There's a difference. I believe that broken trust means if you want to get it back, you got to line up all these little the little rope things together. How long is that going to take? Is it ever going to be, can you ever get back, trust someone that you have broken trust with you? Anybody believe that?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Ever happened to you? Okay. I love working with young people.
In principle.
In principle? Oh, come on. Principle, my eye. Oh, those young optimists. How nice would it be to be that age?
Well, what I heard is that it's really not possible to mend it as if it never was lost, but you could go into something that's like the beyond or the stage after where you kind of know the trust was broken at one point and you would take another rope and attach the two ropes, right? So you know.
I tell you, I'm not mountain climbing on that.
No, but
There's no way I'm going out there, and as a leader, I'm not putting my critical path project in that person's hands. No, no, and no. I mean, I think some people say that you can, or you say, but it's going to take a long time.
yeah, it's got to be different.
Why subject your teams to that kind of stuff? That kind of time? How long do you think that takes a team to build trust with someone who's broken trust on? Right? I had a Scrum Master call me up when I was coaching, and he says, we have a person on the team that broke trust with the team, but they want to stay. I said, really? I said, what'd you do? He said, well, the dev manager talked to him and told him that this was pretty well dicey. I said, what'd you do? He said, that's why I'm calling you, Pollyanna. What's my step here? I said, you have to tell that person in no uncertain terms that they have to prove that you are valuable to the team's success and that they can trust you. You own it now, nobody else. We don't do that. Too many leaders try and step in and fix it. Forget it. They own it. They break the trust, they own it, they fix it. It's just like testing, remember? Some people say to me, well, what are we going to do with all the maintenance that comes after the release? I said, the people that wrote it fix up their own mess. Give it back to them. Well, they're right in the middle of a sprint. I said, I don't care. Give it back to them. Make them do it. I'm pretty hardcore about this ownership thing. That else is a big price tag for lack of trust in a company or in your organization. What happens to your talent? They're not trusted. They
Disappear.
leave. They disappear. Right? What else happens? They disengage. That's a big one. Right.
The product becomes much heavier.
The product becomes much heavier. Yeah.
They're not willing to take risks.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna take risks, that's for darn sure. Not with those people next to them. You got anything else?
The negativity could spread to team members.
Negative team can spread to team members, yeah. Anything else?
It doesn't foster new ideas and innovation.
No, doesn't foster innovation at all. I agree with you on that, that's what I'm saying. Anybody heard of Robert Stanton, I think his name is? He writes for Business Week. He wrote a book called The No Asshole Rule.
Bob Sutton.
Yeah.
Bob Sutton, yeah, and there you got it, thanks. You just have to help me out here, I told you I'm old. It's a good thing. Robert Sutton, he wrote that book, and he said, I was afraid they changed the name, they wouldn't put the asshole rule in there. But he says very clearly that if you leave them in your organization, that spreads. The price tag can be financially determined, what they're costing you. So we have to take care of this. Anything else here in this one? In other words, don't do it. So we got to create a culture of trust. The first step in creating a culture of trust, in my opinion, is to remove the debilitating fear. Now, I would love to figure out how to get rid of debilitating, but I haven't figured it out yet. That doesn't mean I don't continue to think about it. If any of you, again, can come up with those ideas, you email them to me and I will write the paper and give you no credit. However, please, let's think about this. But in the meantime, we can get rid of some of it. Warren Bennis is a very interesting man, in my opinion. He's an academic. What academics do, like that's a professor. That what they do is they study groups of companies, find trends in them, and publish the trends. But they're not telling you how to do what these companies, these trends do, or these trends are in companies. So he gives me a lot of inspiration for some of the models I do. But in his book, Beyond Bureaucracy, at the very end of the book is this one paragraph, and he says, in collaboration, people fear three things. They fear losing their identity, they fear losing their intellectual mastery, and they think in software, this is gigantic. He said, people are afraid that they will become not needed, that they won't be, part of their expertise will be lost, and losing their individualism. Anybody know the difference between identity and individualism? Or you have any thoughts about that? I'm not sure there's a right answer. Yeah.
Identity has a very large collective component. What tribe or what group or what you're a member of is a key part of identity. It's huge. Probably not rarely acknowledged.
And individualism?
Well, I just think individualism. That has high cultural component, but it's not the same. It just does not have that collective identity part of it. It's sort of on paper, it's a little bit at odds. I don't know. It's hard for me to sort of take that apart, feel like we live in a very individualistic, at least nominally. Where we claim to be very individualistic in our own society and are compared to other cultures. So I don't know. I have a hard time disentangling it from our own culture of individualism.
Well, let's say, taking it to the next step, identity is a feeling of belonging to something or a group, whereas individualism is belonging to one me. No?
That's a good idea. Uniqueness. I am different from anybody else. That's my identity. Pardon? Yeah, my identity is I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach. But my individualism, there's only one. Oh yeah, boy, there's a lot of people that are happy there's only one. I'm reminded of it all the time, yes.
It's an interesting thing, though. It is a very, very cultural construct, and you have people in high school who go off and they're defiant and individualistic, and then they all start to look the same.
Mhm.
The same Doc Marten boots or shredded T-shirt or brand of sunglasses or whatever it might be, right? So it's a strange sort of construct, I think. But
Yeah.
it's kind of artificial sometimes.
But these are the things we have to deal with as leaders. How do you deal with this fear for people? How would you do that?
I think recognizing people's value, even if an idea is not necessarily a good one, you don't want to make people feel punished for bringing a different way of thinking, etc. They've proven that, like, when you put children in math class and basically they're told they're not made for that, or you've done math, they'll turn off and they'll find that I'm an idiot, I can't do this thing. Whereas if you go and find their style and then push them into something in the positive side of what they can do, they might come with a different direction, maybe of doing it, but you can confirm their intellectual mastery at every stage and foster it.
Mhm.
So there's different flavors for it. If you have a model that you expect, it doesn't necessarily fit everybody.
If I'm not mistaken, this fear kind of works against getting people to collaborate and share knowledge.
In collaboration, they fear losing.
Right. So
This mastery.
If you know, if they know, they lose some of their valuable. So I think it's important to balance that with making sure that people don't hold some opportunities to yes, share, but also to extend their knowledge.
Give people opportunity to learn.
Even people what?
Opportunity to learn.
Opportunity to learn, yep.
Can you correlate this with ownership? So, for instance, if you gave ownership to a group of people, they'd have some expertise in how that works. That would perhaps give them some intellectual mastery over that, right?
Yeah. When I do the planning, when I work with teams, they self-organize literally around the epics. They decide who's going to be on what team as a group. I tell all the managers to leave the room. Nobody's in the room but the engineering team. They literally, I just did one in India with 80 people, self-organizing around epics.
How did that work?
Great.
Was there any sort of neglected areas?
No, they all worked them out. They had limits. They had 6 to 8 people, and one team wanted 9. I said, work it out. You don't get to leave until you do. It took them 3 hours. It was absolutely phenomenal. The managers, were the biggest problem. I kept telling them, I said, you can't come in the room. We want to observe. They said, I caught them talking to some people. I said, that's not observing. They're supposed to be over there solving their problem. That's true ownership. They get the right people on the team. Yeah. This ownership stuff, I'll walk the talk here. This one. Another way of giving intellectual mastery is let them do lunch and learns. Right? Let them show off what they do. Pair programming, mentoring. Let somebody really good at something work with somebody who's trying to learn it. Those kind of things can happen. You can help with those. Individualism. Any ideas there?
Bringing a different perspective to a topic. On a previous one is about instilling cross-ownership as a way of getting things done, as opposed to consensus, which is
Yeah.
when you build the smallest common denominator. So that's where they concern that we come up with a solution that nobody likes, but is the least contentious one.
Yeah. Any other ideas? Yeah.
So is it giving people the freedom to work the way they want to? Like, an individual, instead of like, okay, we've got an identity, which is we're our scrum team and we're gonna do things this way, we kind of arrange that. It's allowing the flexibility that so-and-so doesn't come in till 10, or so-and-so doesn't come in till midnight, that kind of thing, or even with the tasks that they're able to pick up, like, again, it's back to what you said, they self-organize, but they can organize around their
Yeah.
individual strengths.
Exactly. You can let you allow that. That's not ownership thing. Let them do it.
Guys, if
Figure
I
it
may ask everyone to speak a little bit louder, it'll make it a little bit better for the camera and a little bit harder for Pollyanna not to give you credit.
out. All right. What other fears do we have in the industry right in our organizations or in our economy right now? What's our biggest fear?
Getting fired.
Getting fired. Oh my God, yes. Very, very scary. This one is the biggest one that I found that was came up all the time in IBM. Losing control. Leaders there are afraid of losing control. Fear of someone else taking credit. I just went over this one for stack ranking. Get rid of it. Fear of failure is the biggest one. In my opinion, we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes by a long shot. And any project you take on that has a 50% chance of failure, you will learn the most from. That's the way it works. But we're afraid of this. David Kelly was talking about it on PBS, the educational channel the other day, and David Kelly's the CEO of Ideation, the one that comes up with helping organizations build innovative spaces. And he said, fear of failing and being humiliated or told what were you thinking or stuff like that. It's the biggest blocker we're having with innovation in organizations today, is this fear. And as leaders, we got to get rid of it. And as peers to the people on our teams, we have to help them get over it. We have to say it's okay to fail. So how do we foster trust in teams? We help people advance their intentions, their interests, and the big one is we don't get in the way of what they want to do, where their interests are going. All right? We have to be proactive and moving forward. This is very, very big. I work with backcountry.com. And they sell, everybody remember who they are? Anybody know who they are? They sell outdoor equipment online. They're out of Utah, Park City. The marketing team asked me to come up there and work with them on this leadership stuff. And they said, our biggest problem is the engineers are working on the website and stuff keeps coming out there and we don't know in advance when it's coming. I said, you're all working in one big room. Why don't you walk across the room and ask them? And they went, oh. So I just went, guys, let's think here. So be proactive in moving things forward. Don't wait for them to come to you. Go forward. You have to create transparency with other teams and other people and with the people on your team. You have to be honest and open in communication. Now, I've never taken a communication class in my life. I always thought they were kind of a waste of time, personally. But you can certainly close communication very fast. I discovered when I get in a conversation with somebody and I feel like they're withholding information, two things start to happen to me. One, I get really mad because I don't know everything. And the other one is I get afraid. I get angry because I don't know anything. So it's fear and anger. And immediately, communication is closed. So what I do is I over-communicate. I'll tell people over and over and over stuff. 93% of our emotions are communicated through body language. Get on Skype. Don't make the call. Get on Skype. Watch people. Learn from people. See what they're doing. Take their pulse. Watch what's going on with them. And communicate to them. If you communicate and you keep telling them more and more information, eventually they're going to tell you, I got enough, Pollyanna. Or they'll just start staring at the ceiling, or they'll look at their shoes, and they'll say, I got to go, whatever. They'll tell you they're done. So just keep over-communicating. I always love to tell stories, especially about my failures. They were a long time ago, so it can't possibly relate to anything they're doing today. I don't even understand the word Java, That may mean something. Team-to-team trust, make sure that you don't talk about us and them. Now, I found a very interesting idea inside of the big company I'm working with, Symantec. Their pilot project for Agile was 23 teams. They said, do you really want to take 23 Scrum teams as your pilot? And they said, well, yeah, Pollyanna, that's why we hired you. I said, okay. We'll do what we can, we'll see how far we can get. The interesting thing is they named their teams. And then they had one big name for the whole team, Galapagos. And everybody on the team was part of Galapagos. All these teams were Galapagos. Whenever they had planning meetings, they were in Galapagos. When they had their little teams. I go to India in the same company, in a different business unit, they don't put names on their teams. I said, how do you know you're part of a big team? What's the big team? So make sure you talk about it as a mega team. Validate each other why you need them, to work with them, what they're doing is important to what you're doing, and this is the big one. Accept risks collectively. It's not our team's risks, their team's risks, because then you can really get into trouble. Remember the saying, I know you don't hear it anymore, is my end of the boat is not sinking, right? You can end up right here. It's just like, remember the test and development wars? They'd throw it over the wall of tests, and they'd say, there's bugs in here. They'd throw it back and says, you don't know how to test it. Remember those days? We don't do that anymore, correct? It's the same thing as my end of the boat's not sinking. I came into, semantics gonna kill me. Came into their company, they had a 27-page single-space process on how to develop software. They had 5 QA drops. They developed functional pieces in parallel, in branches. They had 120 branches. And then they had their first QA drop. They had what they call code complete. Now, anybody in here can tell me how you can measure code complete without testing it? Anyone? I know that was my response. How do you know you're done? Then they had the first code, the QA drop. So as soon as, and then they did 4 more after that. So it took them 2 years to deliver a product that should have taken 1 year. So the first time I started teaching Agile classes, the first thing out of my mouth with these people was no QA drops. And one engineer had the nerve to say to me, well, how am I going to get to done my sprint if there's no QA person on the team? I went, are you joking? I said, go find one to help you. Couldn't believe it. You have to let the teams figure out the how and you don't mess with them. And here's the key to let them fail. Create a safe place for them to fail. So I worked with an architecture firm, and there are 7 leaders. It's a firm. It's a big firm, 100 architects. They built the Delta Center where the Jazz play. They built where they had the opening and closing ceremonies of the 2002 Olympics. They're a big company, big team. But every single draft drawing that went in front of a customer had to be approved by one of these 7 people. Where's the bottleneck here? Where's the trust? Huh? So he said, why don't you create a safe place for them to fail? And they would do what they call design charrettes, that anybody who wanted to go out and present to a customer would come and present it inside the company, and if one of those 7 people wanted to show up, fine, and when they didn't, they didn't. And then they'd go present it to the customer. Everything moved along swimmingly. They increased their revenues by 90% in 1 year. It's fascinating to watch, just by unblocking. Team-based measurements. People do what they're measured by. You think if you have people come to work at 8 and go home at 5, you're getting 8 hours of results out of them? No, I don't think so. You have to measure results. So we're building the stock exchange, and these are traders on the floor. This was really old. It's 28 years ago. There's not very computers around for these guys. They would go in and trade all day till 4 o'clock. And we now had to move them onto computers. We had to have workstations for them. So the guys start building the workstation, and they build a prototype, and they have a session at 4 o'clock with a bunch of traders to go down and show it to them. I'm a leader. I don't need to be there. I'm useless. So I don't go. They go. Next morning, they come in. I said, how'd it go? They said, well, Pollyanna, we're going to reuse some of that code. I said, what? I said, we're going to reuse some of that code. I said, I don't care. And they said, what do you mean you don't care? I said, I don't care if you throw it all away. I only care about one thing. When the system goes live, no trader throws a workstation out the window. one result. I didn't have to write 50 million pages of what the screen was going to look like. I had one result. They did 3 more prototypes before they got it right, and then they did it. Now, no workstation has gone out the window, because my buddies keep writing to me. So it worked. One result. We don't have to get highfalutin about what we're doing. So just measure people on results. The other one is let the teams evaluate themselves, and they don't have to share it with anyone else but the team. So what happens inside the team?
We know where we can improve and can look at different ways to make a better job next time in a
Right.
similar situation.
Self-policing.
Self-policing. Yeah. They don't have to share it with anyone else, therefore they can be honest with each other. They're not telling each other what they should be telling each other because they're going to present this little retrospective piece of information or whatever to management. They're going to evaluate themselves. And people have said to me, so what do they do in there? I said, I don't know, because they don't share it with anyone unless they want to. That's how it works. In BMC Software, Israel Gantt, you may know or hear about him. He said this is one of the biggest tools of helping struggling Agile teams that he's ever used before. Now, you don't have to wait for your HR department to start using this. You can go out there this week and do it yourselves. Make sense?
I just ask you something. Do you mean like one-on-one, on the team? Or the
I don't
whole
know.
team?
No, the team gets together and does it together. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they do it. I told you. I have no idea. They decide how they're going to evaluate each other. They get together and they do it, and that's how it works. But they're totally honest, and they don't have to share it with anybody else. No, nobody outside the team gets to hear about it or talk about it. It's not given to management. Same way that I believe retrospectives should not be shared with anybody outside the team either.
Where is that?
Huh?
You just talked about trust. Where is that trust if you're not comfortable sharing the learnings?
If they want to share it with them, they can. They don't have to. But what most people say is they start looking at it as a status thing. Project managers swoop down and say, are you going to fix this? And they want to see progress on it. What if a team chooses not to fix it? Who cares? It's their stuff.
Isn't the project manager part of the team?
No. No, no, and no. Only in retrospectives of the Scrum team. Only the developers. There's no project manager there. Project managers, there's a very difficult line for project managers in the Agile world. We don't usually turn them into, I'm trying to think of a good one, a program manager, maybe. No, I don't let project managers be oh, that's the worst. There's 2 bad places for them, product owners and Scrum Masters. Those are the worst. You don't want to put your project managers there. I always have this is a very hard time in the roles, about where do project managers go. Project managers manage tasks, things, get people to do stuff, watch that it gets done. Project managers have to turn into Agile leaders. And they have to be really good. And if they lead well, Agile will succeed. And if they lead poorly, Agile will fail. And I've seen it happen. Jim Highsmith said to me once, I went into one company a while back, Pollyanna, and we got Agile going in there, and I left. So I'm a consultant, and they brought in a bad leader, and it went all crazy again, and they asked me to come back and fix, do it again. Agile leaders are essential. We have development leaders, we have product leaders, we have release managers, there you go, release program managers, launch program managers, but we're talking big scale Agiles still here. So there are project managers out there, now they don't touch the team. So only in the whole team are just the product owners, the business, they do the what and the why, and the team builds the how. And they don't tell each other what to do. It's just not that simple, sorry. Got off on a rant there, but you can always get me to do that. Okay, anything else here about team?
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry
go right
about
ahead.
that. Sorry if I'm keeping it.
It's okay.
Let's say the team evaluates themselves basically. Then they will do something for better for the whole team basically. How do we see or how do we observe those better behaviors?
It's none of your business.
It is my business.
No, it's not your business. Why are you telling me it's your business? The team wants to improve.
Yes.
They will improve. If they don't want to improve, they won't improve. Why should you try and fix something that's already working? And why is it your business as a leader to figure out how they can function better as a team? You don't know them. You don't sit there with them every day. You don't know their personalities. Who here said I have to know somebody before I can trust them?
Sure,
Stay out of it. Sorry. I'm very adamant about this. Then you take away ownership.
Who delivers results?
They deliver results. If they're not delivering results, then you can ask the question, what's getting in your way of not delivering results? But you don't get to sit there and talk about how they're evaluating themselves and how they're improving as a team or how they're helping people or not. No. That's micromanagement. And that's like, you're going to lose 50% of your productivity or less right there.
Why don't you measure results in a way that's meaningful to the business instead of?
I always do. It's
I was-
always measured by results, and it's always measured by business value, and it's always validated by the customer. And if the customer, when I know I have enough business value, I ask the customer if they're willing to pay for it, and they're go to market. But we always prioritize by high, medium, and low business value. And we use an interesting model that talks about differentiating, parity, considerations, cost and benefits. Because cost and benefits can be gained. So it's not a number. It's a conversation with the business. So user stories and epics are written with the business together. They're not written alone. And everybody votes on business value, high, medium, and low, including development. Yep. Everybody votes. And the project people, the business people always just, when I get to that part, they stop breathing. They literally stop breathing. They go, Pollyanna, but they're developers, they're engineers. They don't know the business value. I said, really? Let's give it a shot. It always lines up. And if it doesn't line up, the business thinks that that's high business value, and development thinks it's low business value, then the business hasn't done their job of expressing the what and the why. And they better get on it. Because development and engineering is not going to be blamed for delivering products customers don't want. The business is going to own that, not the developers, not the engineering, and that's how you do it. You don't cross that line. But everybody votes together. And it's fascinating. Most of the time it works perfectly. There's only maybe 1 or 2 outliers. I've done it with 180 people. Last time it was 120 voting on it. It's fascinating to watch. But developers are a lot smarter and a lot more aware than leaders and managers and the business think. I hate to break that to you. But I'm sure all the engineers in this room know that already. It's just the other guys who are trying to convince how to listen. Make sense? So that's about how I measure how fast are they delivering results. What rate? And that's business value. How fast are they delivering business value? Okay? You can't take back ownership from teams. If somebody walks in your office and they say, I can't solve this problem, and you go, did you try this? What happened? What happened?
You take ownership.
You took ownership and you gave them the solution. Correct? So now you have the ownership. In IBM, the architects are no longer approving designs by the designers. Because as soon as they approve, what happens? Who's got the ownership? Who's got the ownership?
The architects.
The architects. Yeah. The architects do, right? So they spend all their time talking and walking the designers through and asking them questions, but they never give them the answers. And the way it would work is, if they approved it, the designer would go down the pathway, working away at it, and he'd get to a problem and it wasn't working, and he'd say, it's the architect said this was going to work. I must be doing something wrong, and they keep going and keep going and keep going. But normally, if they had ownership, what would happen when they hit that wall? They correct, fix it, and keep moving to success. So when we take away ownership, that's the problem we get into. So you can't take back ownership. This is really hard. Because you can't give anybody answers, not even in the questions. So you have to ask questions. Questions that help people discover the solutions. This is my favorite. How do you want to solve it? This is my business partner's one. So what would you like me to do? So now I'm going to let you guys try. Oh, I took out the exercise in here? Yes, I did. So we're going to do it anyway. Because it's important. I want to see you guys if you can pull this off. You still have some time. I want you to pair up. You're sitting next to each other. I want you to pair up. One of you is the leader, and one of you is the worker bee. And the worker bee has a problem, and he's going to work really hard because their performance review depends on getting the answer from the leader and getting it right, right? And the leader is going to help them discover the answer by not giving them the answer. And their performance review depends on that. So pair, and then do that for a while, and then switch, okay? So actually, you didn't think you were going to have to do anything here, but you are. All right, so pair up. Looks like you can be pretty close. I'm not joking. I really want you to try this. Here? Right here. Yeah, over there. Does anybody need a person? There's one free one here. Stand up.
I don't know where to go from there.
Go ahead and try it.
Well, you can't ask me something backwards. Think I think we might have.
You saw me doing something.
Got a problem. You're not ask There's somebody here. It's fun regardless. We need someone to like too. Yeah. Right?
If you were the owner and you were me, what would you do? Would you even... Excellent. So how would you do that? There you go. At least now we're starting to formulate a plan. So how do we get our... Pull them up? Yeah, alright. Get on, click on this. Alright, alright. I like this. I like this. So we need to use the pressure and the music pop. Alright, so how was it? Yeah, See, we did well though. We got you to giving the answers, no matter how ridiculous. We got there, right? Eventually. process gets get warmed up. Yeah, we're like 10 people and like the CEO and the HR directly with everyone. So it's a big trust base. Otherwise, like you're not going to get Okay, that's good. Right, so that doesn't
Hello? Oh, there he is. Hello? Oh, so how'd it go? How many of you got your leaders to give you the answers? Right. Yeah, I know. Right, what questions? Was it easy? No. It's what? It's embarrassing. Leaders come up to me, executives will come to me and say, my team doesn't think that I'm being very effective because I just keep asking them questions. I said, yes. It gives you more time to go out and open new markets and come up with new things you want to work on and go forward. Just keep going. So, any questions you used you liked? Worked for you or didn't work or anything?
What have you explored so far?
Yeah, but what have you explored so far? That's a good one.
If you have different ideas, what is the criteria used to rank those ideas?
To what? Oh, run those ideas.
To rank them, to evaluate which one is better.
Yeah, oh yeah, to evaluate them, yeah. What else? Anything? Yeah.
I asked a question that was along the lines of, if I were on your team, why would I trust what you're telling me as a manager?
Ah, yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't trust them at worth 2 bits. Maybe not. Maybe. Anything else? Any other questions? Any other questions you guys came up with? Yeah.
I do have a question about the stuff you were talking about, when someone asked you about like the trust and you don't actually micromanage people, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and judge everything on business results. Is that, something, that a leader can actually rely on to?
Oh, yeah.
100%?
Yeah.
What
Well,
if there is a conspiracy on
yeah, don't you
team,
think?
right?
There's a
That is doing
conspiracy
that.
back there. We use this model. All right, we're only talking about one piece of it tonight, and the other one in the class, we're talking about the other one. Here's trust, and here's control. This is leaders and processes. Right? Yeah, and here we have team and individual ownership. High and low. Okay? Correct? If you're up here in high trust, you trust your team, but no one steps up and takes ownership, what's going to happen? You're going to break trust, what's going to happen? Productivity's low, what's going to happen to the projects? The results? It's going to go to the tank. This is failure here, right? Now, this is leader's worst fear up here, correct? We're not living up there. I'll die up there. So what do? We go this direction most often. What's down here?
Everybody's upset.
Yeah, except the leader loves it. This is command and control. And the leader tells everybody what to do. Now you're back to project management, back to management. Tell them what to do and how to do it. People that want ownership don't like living down here, so what do? They try and go over here and have some ownership. What do you get over in here? Conflict. What?
Different employer.
Different employer, yeah. That's mostly what happens. So you're exactly correct, because you get conflict here, and you either exit the company, or you give up and go back here, right? That's exactly what happens. What we want is to be up here. This is it. This is high energy and innovation. That's how you get it. Now, it turns out that you can't do this model without having alignment with the business of the company. So your differentiators have to align with the strategy of your company, and you have to fill your parity gaps. All right? So for the alignment piece, we go here, which says, is another model. There are more 2x2s in the agile business than anything in the world. This is mission critical. And this is market differentiating. Okay? High, low, low, high. Up here, we have high market differentiating and high mission critical. This is your differentiators. And this is where you gain market share. Down here is parity. If you don't fill your parity gaps, you're going to lose market share. All right? Here is partnering. If you don't want to partner with somebody, it moves here. And what's down here, folks? Who cares? Right, down there is who cares. In other words, don't do it. Do not do this. I had a guy come up to me at one of these talks and break, and he says, "Oh, all my projects are down here in the who cares, Pollyanna." I said, "Good luck with that." Too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. So, when we start planning with the product business people and engineers in the same room, this is where we start. A differentiator is where your intellectual capital is going to be. You should not outsource it. Put it into a consulting company. That's where you want to put your talent. Down here, you better fill your parity gaps. That's the alignment. The final piece to make all this work is you have to be able to deal with uncertainty. Because you don't know what you don't know.
When you talk about parity gaps, are you referring to gaps in product functionality as opposed to
your product, your customer, your competition has it and you don't.
Yep.
Boy, and if you don't fill those, it could be death really fast. And down in the uncertainty, the biggest number to remember is you have a 5% chance of getting it right at the beginning of a project, according to NESA. That's what they figure. So if someone walks up to me and says, "Can you get this all done in 3 months?" and I go, yeah, I guess so. I have a 95% chance I'm lying. And I don't like that, so I don't do
Well,
it.
you don't know you're lying. Or do you?
Yeah, I think you probably do. I'm not good at lying, I'm not there yet. I'm sorry. I can't get there. So, with those 4 pieces, you can move a company forward successfully and double revenues. Has to have the alignment piece. Everybody has to be aligned from top to bottom. So I was working with a company a couple of weeks ago, and I said to them at the beginning of the lead class, which I'll do tomorrow, is what do you want from your leaders? The biggest thing they wanted was vision. I said, okay. The vice president was in the room, and all our direct reports, and all of the engineers were there. I went back at the break, and she said, I just gave all hands last week and told them what the vision was. I said, well, let's see what's going on there. At the end of the class, I said, I want every one of you to take your sticky notes out again and write down the vision of the company, what you think it is. And they were all in agreement. They all knew what it was. I said, so what's the problem here? You just told me that you wanted vision from your leaders, but you all know what it is, what's going on? And the quietest, shyest developer engineer said, well, we get a whole bunch of stuff. We're told to build a whole bunch of stuff that I can't see how it fits with the vision. Turns out 70% of the stuff they put out to their customers, the customers aren't using. So they're not aligned with the vision. Business is not aligned with the vision, and they're mad. They don't want to do that anymore. They want to know that what they're building is aligned with the vision of the company. And they start their planning tomorrow using that vision that we dealt with last week. Make sense? So the alignment, dealing with uncertainty, knowing you can't have all of the answers in the beginning, and that model on business value, you're in like Flint. You can get your company there. We've done it a couple of times, at least enough. You have to build confidence with the team. You have to have short goals and early wins. We know that. You want to know a really fast way to take ownership away from your team, which absolutely shocks me because I only figured this out maybe a year ago. What happens when the team succeeds? What does the manager do? Takes the credit for sure, but what else do they do? They go get pizza and bring it in for lunch, correct? That's usually what they do. They bring some food in and say, great job, see ya, thanks. Then they hang around for a while thinking that, shaking hands with everybody makes them feel important. Suddenly the managers have also taken away ownership from the team. Why? They didn't let the team figure out how they wanted to celebrate their successes. It was a subtle little thing. We keep watching that. You got to have a filter on yourself so that you let the team decide how they're going to celebrate their success. You have to protect the team in all cases and protect their boundaries, which means don't make them do stupid stuff. In a leadership role, you better be authentic because the team will chew you up and spit you out in 2 seconds. Correct? Oh yeah. And you have to stay positive. I'm giving this talk about 2 years ago, and some guy in the class, in the middle of this talk right here, says to me, well, how can you stay positive and still be authentic? You can't make this stuff up, guys. I mean, I was speechless. I said, leave the room. Okay, so I added this little slide from Peter Drucker to help this person. Jeez Louise. I thought, I'm in the wrong spot. Now, here's going to be another controversial subject. Trust first. It's very, very powerful. Most leaders that are good at leading know that this is what you do. And some of the time you're going to fail. I've been doing this for a long time. I run my own company, and once in a while, someone I trust fails me. I'm not very happy about it. But you have to do this because of this. Suspicion is a permanent condition. If you don't trust somebody, how long is it going to take them to earn your trust? And immediately your communication lines are broken. It's not working. Trust first. And prepare for the once or twice or 3 times or whatever. It doesn't quite work. Purpose over personal agenda. Anybody that has a hidden agenda or a hidden personal agenda, everybody in the room knows who that is in your company, and you might not know who the agenda is, but you know they got one. Correct? There's a lot of heads nodding in this one. Yeah. But don't do it yourself. Protect your team from that. And as you mentioned, you have to be trustworthy. Continuous feedback all the time. And summary, we talked about these 3 things. So, here's the books. This part, this stuff, and the stuff before the trust is all in this book right here. And this one has collaborative leadership and some of the business model in it today. So, yeah. And any questions?
Back one.
Back one.
Thank you.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll try and ask this question. I'm not quite sure how to word it. If you're in an environment where your customers are banks and financial organizations that have a contract that says they come in and audit you and thus don't really trust you, what advice do you have for similar situations?
When we did the stock exchange back in those days, you had to be a bank to trade. There were no individual traders. Nobody could buy stocks except banks. We had at least 50 customers, all different sizes of banks, little banks and big banks. They sent auditors. Whenever an auditor would come, I would be thrilled, because when they left, I could sleep at night. And that's the way I viewed them. When they came in, I gave them all the information. I gave them access to everything they wanted, because if they found something that we had missed, then that's good for us. We learned something, and we would be better, the product would be better. If they didn't find anything, then we hadn't missed anything, unless they were a bad auditor, and then I could sleep at night either way. So as a leader, I was happy they came in there, and I told the people that. I said, we need to look at this as a learning event to help us make sure that we got ourselves covered. That's the way I see it. That's the way I handle it. They also sent, to my chagrin, over once a month for a half an hour grilling of my team technically. And it wasn't a grilling. What they did was, the 5 different people, they were from all different banks, so they'd rotate. They wanted to ask questions that were hard, show off how bright they were with the other guys in the room. And I went, oh my God, I hate this. I would go and take one person with me from the team, and that's it. So I was protecting your boundaries, protecting the team from that baloney, because it was baloney. It was like, huh? So you just have to figure it out. But the auditors, I bring them on. I'm a happy person when they do that. Because as a leader, I can sleep. That's how I see it. Yeah.
So let's say hypothetically,
I love sort of questions that start like that. Let's see what you got.
let's say that you have somebody managing you, and they're fairly introverted personality. They're still heavy on the tech side, even though their particular role shouldn't really sort of promote that. And they're trustworthy. They seem trustworthy, but they don't communicate a lot. They don't establish relationships. So it's hard to establish trust. So what can say this hypothetical person do to sort of just grease up that channel a little bit? You know,
Grease up the channel?
Yeah, the trust channel.
The trust channel.
The communication channel, whatever you want.
I think it's more communication than trust, right?
Yeah. See, because my sense is if you can get communication, if you grease that channel, you'll get trust.
Okay, so one of my techniques is to ask people questions about themselves that are about themselves. And they go like this. What's a major turning point in your life? What's a book you read that was significant impact on your life? And when you go down that pathway, you can ask other questions like, how do you define compassion? Things like that. Because these are questions about that person.
Right, so they have to be personal.
Well, that's how you develop a relationship. Is there any other kind? I don't know. I had this one guy who came to me, a project manager, said, I want to be a leader, Pollyanna. I gave him a set of books. He couldn't even face me. He wrote me back in an email saying, these books are all about people. I said, well, yeah. So I went to lunch with my business partner, told him what happened. He said, obviously this guy's not ready for leadership. I said, yeah, I think so. We're done with that. No more mentoring from me.
Well, you could stay on the technical track. Let's say they have a like for a particular, I don't know, field of study, and maybe if you share that field of study with them, maybe that gives you some common ground.
Maybe. You always look for common ground. In this book over here, I finally wrote this one. I finally wrote the section on collaborating with non-collaborators. And managing up is in there. So there might be some tools in there you can look at. The thing I don't know, I can't be so specific, is that when you look at collaborating with non-collaborators, there's a whole evaluation there in the back. You have to do on this non-collaborator or a resistant person or blind person before you can know which tool to use with them. Okay, so this book is on a Kindle, so you could start reading it tonight. I'm sure that'll keep you awake.
Just fine.
Just bought it. See, there you go. Yeah. So it's not a worry. Yeah.
This might be out of place, but as a little bit of an introvert, just a technical bit myself, I would probably say maybe you should listen more and not to what they say.
To what people are saying?
No, not to what they say.
To read between the lines, listen between the lines. Yeah. That's why I think, and I recommend to people there's a one good book out there, which I can't remember what it is, on body language, how to read body language. I think that's really important. And not engage. Not engage with dysfunctional people. Take the fun out of being dysfunctional. If you've got negative, dysfunctional people in your organization, they're getting rewarded somehow, and a lot of times it's just negative feedback. So I had a guy come up to me once, a board president, and he was going to ask me this rhetorical question. Well, I don't want to argue with him about my models. They're my models, you know. You use them or you don't. I don't care. They've worked for me in the past, blah, blah, blah. He was going to spend his time proving them wrong. He stood right in front of me and asked me the question. And I stood just like this and did not say a word and did not move. No reward. He tried it again, and then he stopped doing it. And he started participating with the rest of the people. I won't reward people for bad behavior. I just won't do it. Bad news. Make sense? Yeah.
So how can you have a self-organized team without having a battle of egos within the team?
Oh. Well, actually, when you put ownership in there to deliver the end product, and you take away stack ranking, and you start measuring them on how well you helped other people on your team succeed, then that'll go away. If it's really bad egos and it's passive-aggressive behavior.
So someone tried to pretend to be the leader or be a boss.
Yep, and yet they have to work that out. But I use this tool called sticky note exercise, so that when there's some problem that needs to be solved, they all write the solution down, put it on the wall, and figure out which one's the best. Together. Nobody, no, it takes the emotion out of it, and no one has, the leader. However, if they continue to do that, I wrap them in process and make sure the only thing I can do is take the step I wanted to take. Maybe I'll put them on an island, so the team just sends stuff out to them and comes back. If the team doesn't need them, next bus stop is theirs. I'm sorry. They're hurting the team more than they're helping the team. And if I don't take care of that, the team's going to be pissed off at me. and then I'm being an ineffectual leader. Because they're carrying the dead weight. So you have to deal with it. It's not easy, but first give them a chance. Wrap them in process, put them on an island, something like that. See what can happen. It's not easy, but if you don't do it, you're in trouble.
Because usually what happens is that when you leave a team organize themselves, someone's going to try to step up and pretend to be the boss of the rest.
Yep. And somebody's going to reward them. If you reward them or anybody rewards them, but your job is to go in and reward the other people and ignore that one. That's one other way of taking care of it.
Do you have to establish the rules of engagement for the
No, I never do, because they take care of themselves. Because then I've taken away ownership on how they're going to behave together.
Do you
And if
support
there's-
agile training,
yeah.
or do you support with value principles, or do you support with,
Yeah, they just-
create some sort of North Star to guide, like, do you
If
throw
they
the
can't-
agile manifesto or something, like?
That they self-organize. They don't like somebody on the team or they want to advocate to it. They don't get done. They're not going to get done what they could get done and what they wanted to commit to. And they're going to be unhappy after a while. And pretty soon you're going to know, they'll let you know that something needs to happen there. It happened once on the stock exchange, but he wasn't an egotist. He just didn't pick it up fast enough. And the learning curve was too long. So one of the team members said to me in the cafeteria, in the coffee room, how long do we have to keeping training this guy? I said, what's wrong? He said, well, he understands the stock exchange now, and he's a good guy, he's talented, but it's not our fit. Can you find another place for him in the organization? That's how you get there with ownership. They take care of each other. The egotists will be lambasted out if you stop rewarding them. Isolate them, put it on an island. Sideline them. Sideline them. Let them do all your filing for a while. It's a great thing. It makes you feel so good as a leader to have somebody come in and do your filing for you. Mine just stacks up for months. The team doesn't need them. Next bus stop is yours. Now, you have to figure out how to figure that out. I give them the vacation test. Ask them to take a vacation if they can. Ask them to work on a project that doesn't involve anybody on the team. See if the team can work without them. Or I send them to a conference or a class like this. Something like this, if you're forced to come. So that's how it works. Makes sense. I find out if the team needs them. If the team needs them, they're on an island. Until the team doesn't need them, and then they're off the bus. If the team doesn't need them, they're gone. You just can't waste your time. We're too busy. You have to spend, it's the 80-20 rule, right? Why spend 80% of your time trying to manage 20% of the team? No. Sideline the 20% and spend all that 80%. Sideline that person and spend that rest of that 80%, helping the team succeed. Because you're not doing it by keeping them there. You really got me on a rant there. Yeah.
So I'm interested in this because how did the person end up there in the first place? Is it a shortcoming in the team, or this person's flaws just come out later?
It's mainly, it's a very interesting phenomenon when you go from waterfall to agile, because then individuals are held accountable because of the transparency. So now you see it. And in the old days, a lot of these people would withhold information from the team until the team was in crisis. Then they'd swoop in and rescue the team. And what did we do as an organization? We rewarded them. So their withholding information doesn't show up until you're in 2-week sprints, and they try to tell people what to do. And the team goes, no, we're not. That's not going to work. You're not listening to us. So we have to work together to solve these problems, not just one person solve them. So usually don't see them until you get into the agile world. That's the problem. and they hide because, I mean, if you stop rewarding them, then you're often better off as well. Make sense? Yeah.
You mentioned the body language is a key to develop trust. And how does it work when you have a team working remotely?
Remotely?
Yeah.
Well, it's not, it's never easy. But for me, I've been, I text a lot. That's my favorite way of communication. You ever want to ask me a question, you just text me, and I'm pretty well on it pretty fast. Once you'll have to wait an hour and a half because I'm giving a talk like this, or class. And I get right back to people, and you're free to use that anytime you want. But I've learned even over texting to figure out when people are mad or upset or whatever. The other one is stop using a phone. Use Skype where you can see each other, or use Google Group where you can see each other and watch the body language. The other thing is that I remember going to Germany and they said the only thing in Germany, you can't trust anybody until you've met with them face to face. And IBM, in their wise wisdom, managers decided to stop all travel. What idiots were they? So you couldn't travel. The Germans couldn't travel and meet some of the people at these remote sites. They said, what are we going to do? We can't trust people. And I gave the whole class. They kept saying, won't work. At the very end, I said, get out your sticky notes. So everybody write down ways that you think you can build trust with remote teams. Face-to-face came out number 4. And they came up with 13 different ways to do it. So you don't have to worry about it. Here's my favorite statement. Ask your team to figure it out. They're remote. Ask them how they want to do it. How do we do this, guys? How do we work better remotely? What do we need? Do we need webcams? Do we need Skypes? Do we need what? What do we need? Ask them how to solve it. It's my favorite answer. How did the team want to solve it? They probably got better ideas than you do. Neil did that in his class. And he's a turnaround CIO, and he worked in a company that manufactured chemicals for coal, so it would reduce the emissions. This is a good thing. The CEO finds him on Friday night and says, Neil, I want you to cut $5 million out of your budget by Monday morning and still do everything you're doing so far. He goes, oh, okay. So he goes home. He spends the weekend thinking about it. Somehow on Sunday afternoon he goes, what would Pollyanna do? He goes, oh, I know what you'd do. He comes in on Monday and says to the team, we got to cut $5 million out of our budget. How do you want to do it? He said they came up with better ideas than he did, and because they came up with them, they owned it, and they instantly implemented them. We don't call this book stand back and deliver or not. You really do just stand back and let the teams figure it out. They will. And when they struggle, you still have to let them do it. Or sometimes I'll see them, I'll say, what's getting in your way of reaching a decision? What's blocking you? I don't give them an answer. Remember, people in positional power make decisions based on less information. The higher you get in the corporation, the less information. You're going to make decisions based on less and less information. That's Robert Sutton's work again. Man, not his work, but it's. So stop making decisions. Let your teams make them. Yeah?
We do a lot of these self-managed teams in my company, and recently some people left saying that there wasn't enough leadership in the company, and that's why they left.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Well, it depends on how you define leadership for that. If they want to be told what to do,
Pretty much.
then you're glad you got rid of them. Wish them well. Just say, see ya. In converting to Agile and this ownership model, you're going to lose anywhere between 20 and 30% of your people. And that includes 20 and 30% of your leadership. that's exactly what we see. Because people don't want, some people want to be told what to do and want to just go home at night, and then when it doesn't work, they say, it's not my fault. I did what you told me to do and how to do it, so see ya. They're not want to be held accountable, and they're not going to be highly productive. So let them go. They self-selected out. That's a good thing. That's a lot easier than trying to talk them out. Right? Yeah.
Do you have any exceptions to your advice? Places where you don't think it's appropriate?
No. A lot of people say to me, I could use these rules at home with my family. Some people have sticky notes on the refrigerators, you know, all sorts of stuff, but I've never known where you can't use it. No. Yeah.
Maybe just to add on to that, how about if you have a team environment that's completely chaotic and you need that sort of command and control initially and then maybe transition to.
You know, I've had this big debate with my partner, Neil, about this, and it actually is in the book, is that, I mean, it is in the book, which I don't, you know, I'm not happy with, but, you know, he is a wise man, that you're here, you're trying to go on this line here, right? And you're down in here somewhere, or up in here, or down in here. So I don't say go down here and start up. I just say move straight over and then go up. You know, here, straight down and then go up. That's what he says. Now, he has some pretty good case studies in there about that. Now, I don't, but he does, and it works. And the case studies are pretty relevant and depend. And then I give you my consultant answer, and it depends. Sometimes it's good to do what he did, but he does, and sometimes it's not. You have to assess your organization and help. Most of the time, you're in chaos is because people are there's a lot of fear, I think. And they probably don't know, they probably don't have the alignment. You know, where's our vision, where we're supposed to go, what's going on? I mean, there's a lot of things that could be affecting. You have to do some analysis.
So when there's a lot of fear and you're making that transition, what is the role of, you can't completely step back and let them deliver because they don't know yet. They don't know how to not be afraid. Their fear will impede them to a
I
certain
never step totally back. Tomorrow we will talk about all the tools to help teams take ownership. That's what's tomorrow morning's about. No. I never step back. I'm walking the floor all the time. I'm taking the pulse of the team. I'm watching the body language. I'm teaching, I'm using the ownership tools to help them. I don't just walk away. And I have seen leaders walk in there and say, I trust you, see you later. They're in failure, you know, they won't try. Teams their brain is not, they're usually in command and control in the past, so they have to shift. They don't believe that they're really going to have ownership in the beginning. They will test you, and they will test you, and they will test you. And once you give in and give them an answer, boy, serious groveling, probably on your knees, is going to be required going forward to undo it. It's not fun, but I've made that mistake. I have leaders that call me and make mistakes. They go, okay, I gotta go back. No, you can't leave them alone. You have to be there, but you just ask questions. You never give them a direction. Make sense?
As much as I hate to
Oh, is it time? Yeah, it's time. Okay.
and this interesting discussion, I don't think I've ever seen so few people ooze light in the Q&A session. We're all still here. Amazing. So, yeah, we still have places if anybody wants to join the workshop tomorrow morning, continue this fascinating discussion. Other than that, I'm going to say thank you all for coming and keep an eye on your inbox for our next event coming up.
Is this useful? Yeah. You guys live?